This is VK3CSJ in Narre Warren South. Please stand by for this morning's WIA broadcast at 9 a.m. on 1825 kHz in the 160 metre amateur radio band. This is VK3CSJ in Narre Warren South. Please stand by for this morning's WIA broadcast at 9 a.m. on 1825 kHz in the 160 metre amateur radio band. This is VK3CSJ in Narre Warren South. Please stand by for this morning's WIA broadcast at 9 a.m. on 1825 kHz in the 160 metre amateur radio band.
From Australia, this is the Wireless Institute of Australia with the weekly news service. This broadcast is in text, audio and video and is accessed on wia.org.au.
And in WIA National News this week, WIA Amateur Radio Magazine's Editor-in-Chief Roger Harrison, VK2ZRH, checks out Issue 4. Jason, VK2LAW, reveals the 4th edition of Ethics and Operating Procedures for Radio Amateurs. And WIA Director Giles Kirby, VK5GK, and an ACMA update. But wait, there's much, much more in this edition of news from the Wireless Institute of Australia, and it's for week commencing Sunday, July 26, 2026. I'm Editor Graham, VK4BB.
This national news edition originates from VK1WIA and is rebroadcast throughout Australia and around the world under a common licence published on the WIA website. This WIA National News Service is copyright to the Wireless Institute of Australia, and rebroadcast is authorised only under the provisions of that common licence. WIA Director and Company Secretary Peter Cleve, VK8ZZ.
This is Giles Kirby, VK5 Golf Kilo, delivering the board update. I'd like to acknowledge some excellent work by the Australian Communications and Media Authority that's of direct relevance to the amateur radio community. The ACMA has released the outcomes of its 2025-26 compliance priorities, and one of the standout successes has been its campaign against the online sale of non-compliant radio communications devices. Through its Equipment Safety Pledge, the ACMA has worked collaboratively with major online marketplaces and suppliers, including eBay, Temu, Shein, Gumtree, Radio Warehouse, and others, to reduce the availability of illegal and non-compliant equipment. Rather than relying solely on enforcement, the ACMA has combined education, industry engagement, and targeted compliance action to achieve these results. The outcomes speak for themselves. ACMA audits identified almost 4,800 non-compliant device listings, all of which were removed following engagement with relative platforms. This represents a significant reduction in the availability of equipment that can cause harmful interference. This is good news, not only for consumers, but also for licensed radio amateurs. We all recognize the problems that poorly designed or illegally configured equipment can create, from interference to legitimate spectrum users, through to undermining confidence in the regulatory framework that allows us to enjoy these bands. On behalf of the WIA, I think it's appropriate that we acknowledge the ACMA for taking a practical, evidence-based approach to this issue. Protecting the integrity of Australia's spectrum benefits everyone who relies on radio communications, whether they're emergency services, commercial operators, or the amateur radio community. We look forward to continuing to work constructively with the ACMA in support of effective spectrum management and a healthy, compliant radio communications environment. This is Giles Kirby, VK5 Golf Kilo.
Once again, listeners, sandbaggers, and all those waiting for the callbacks. This is Roger Harrison, VK2ZRH, Editor-in-Chief of Amateur Radio Magazine. Last week, I revealed the theme for Issue 4, that being about basics. This week's I have more to reveal. There was a time when single sideband was derided as duck talk and took away the feel of true amateur radio. It seems the transmission mode wars have returned in some quarters, only this time it's about that dominant digital mode, FT8. Detractors claim that if the computer makes the contact, it can't be real amateur radio. Well, Hank, VK5XB, has an answer to that in his entertaining article titled FT8 is Amateur Radio, Just a Different Conversation. WIA historian Peter Wolfenden, VK3RV, tells us about some notable Australian amateurs who advanced our use of the VHF bands, both between World Wars I and II and post-World War II. It should come as no surprise that the renowned John Moyle VK2JU was a leading force in VHF development. Read about the characters involved, the experiments they did, and the shenanigans they got up to. Now here is the real news. This issue, we introduced something new. It's an idea put forward by a reader and WIA member who thought we should do more to regularly highlight the activities, projects and successes of amateur radio clubs by having a regular club corner, in quotes. So, taking the suggestion to heart, AR's new Club Community column kicks off this issue with coverage of Redcliffe and District's Radio Club's project to introduce amateur radio into a local school in Brisbane. You'll find much more to read in issue 4 of Amateur Radio magazine, More Guts, Less Gab, trusted by hams across Australia since 1933, proudly produced and printed in Australia by amateurs for amateurs. I'm Roger Harrison, VK2ZRH, for VK1WIA News.
From here, there and everywhere, you've tuned to the Wireless Institute of Australia's national news service. We are VK1WIA. Now with international news, Jason, VK2LAW.
Hello, it's here, the official release of the Ethics and Operating Procedures for the Radio Amateur, 4th edition from IARU Region 1. This revision incorporates the latest developments and best practices in the field of amateur radio. This read is essential to upholding the high standards of amateur radio and ensuring our community remains at the forefront of technological innovation and ethical operating practices. All input has been carefully reviewed and the document has been updated as necessary. Sincere appreciation has been expressed to the editorial team for their valuable contributions in updating this guide. Their dedication, attention to detail, and commitment to upholding the highest standards of amateur radio have been instrumental in enhancing this important document. The document Ethics and Operating Procedures for the Radio Amateur 4th edition replaces IARU Region 1 Edition 3, June 2010. The document is available in English at the link in this week's news from wia.org.au. This document remains the benchmark for amateur radio operations globally. In place for 18 years, but Scarborough man told amateur radio mast not lawful. Although neighbours said they were not impacted by the mast and confirmed it had been in place for 18 years, Mr Ellis, who lives at the Uplands in Newby, may have to seek retrospective planning permission in order to continue his hobby. While officers did not dispute that a radio mast had been in place for almost 2 decades, they said that recent changes to its design had materially altered the development and led them to refuse the application in this UK town. Mr Ellis said, "I can confirm that the amateur radio mast has been in situ since 2008. A neighbouring resident corroborated the statement, telling the council, "I can confirm that the amateur radio mast has been in situ since 2008. I'm aware that the mast was repaired in 2023-24 and can confirm it remains in the same position as it was in 2008 and is of the same height. I might add that I do not have any issues with the mast, aerials or the carrying out of my neighbour's hobby, and we're not bothered about it one bit." Officers said that while the height of the radio mast has not changed over the years, its design and appearance have, and as such the current development has only been in situ since 2023. They concluded the mast has materially changed enough to be considered a separate development and therefore not in continuous use. The application was refused on Friday, July 10, and officers noted the decision did not prevent the applicant from obtaining retrospective planning permission. When an antenna can outfox criminals. This is a story of an antenna with a simple design that's proven itself capable of tackling a complex task, solving vehicle theft. John Williams, VK4JJW, joins us again and tells us how, as he reported on Newsline.
The late Swiss radio amateur Rudolf Baumgartner, HB9CV, might never have been able to predict more than 70 years ago the popularity that his simple portable antenna would gain among enthusiasts of amateur radio direction finding. Rudy would be pleased to see it being used by hams who want to outfox the fox, but imagine his reaction upon learning that the simple two-element antenna is also being used to outfox criminals. A recent episode of the UK-based TV programme Trace Track Get My Car Back, aired on BBC One, showcased recently how versatile this popular transmitter hunter can be when vehicles, including rental cars and even building site machines, go missing. While typically many companies outfit their vehicles with GPS for tracking, when that's shielded, the system defaults to an RF-based backup for the last mile, and that's when car recovery experts, in this case from Global Telemetrics, are deployed with Rudolph's reliable creation. This is John Williams, VK4JJW.
As of July 20, the public can access data from the two powerful radar instruments aboard the NISAR, that's NASA's ISRO synthetic aperture radar satellite. Teams in the United States and India will release files processed from the satellite's L-band and S-band radars in an ongoing basis, helping researchers and other users track the movement of Earth's land and ice masses, monitor changes in ecosystems like forests and wetlands, and respond to natural hazards such as landslides and earthquakes. The release comes as NASA and ISRO, Indian Space Research Organisation, prepare to celebrate the first anniversary of NISAR's July 30, 2025 launch from India's Satish Dhawan Space Centre. Since that time, the mission engineering and science teams have been busy calibrating instrumentation, refining algorithms, and monitoring nearly all the planet's land and ice-covered surfaces twice every 12 days. Along the way, the team has captured scenes from around the globe: urban street grids, agricultural fields, landslides, earthquakes, and the sinking land in Mexico City. An early image released Tuesday last revealed the fractured barren surface of an Antarctic landscape in stark detail. In a merging of science and serendipity, it also resembles something else entirely: a hummingbird. And still with India, a private Indian company, Skyroot Aerospace, successfully tested its Vikram-1 rocket on July 18. This was the country's first space launch conducted by a private company. It's expected to significantly expand India's capabilities for launching small spacecraft into space. The United States Senate may soon consider legislation that would review medical devices from China for potential cybersecurity risks. According to an article posted earlier this month on the Industrial Cyber website, Senator Tom Cotton, a Republican from Arkansas, has proposed a bill that would restrict the future procurement of medical devices produced by companies linked to the Chinese government. The bill, titled the Countering Chinese Cyber Threats and Patients Act, would also require the US Food and Drug Administration and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency to evaluate legacy Chinese-made networked medical devices for potential cybersecurity risks, and to recall those devices found to pose a risk to American patients. Brazil's national public broadcaster has announced an extended reduced operating schedule for its Radio Nacional de Amazonia shortwave service. The station's transmission site is northwest of Brasilia, within Rodia de Parque in the Federal District. It's heard on two frequencies, 11780 kHz and 6180 kHz. Due to technical problems and energy costs, the service will have reduced operating hours through at least the end of the year, EBC radio manager Manuel Catano told Paul Walker, a long-time shortwave observer. The service's transmitters are ageing. According to Paul Walker, Radio Nacional de Amazonia uses transmitters that are approximately 50 years old. The station's radio engineering manager said that the operation was having trouble with its 4CX5000 tubes and was awaiting replacement. The service began in 1977. For WIA National News in Sydney, I'm Jason, VK2LAW.
We are VK1WIA. Now, operational news with VK4 FUQ. Felix.
Hello there. GB26 WRTC. The World Radio Sport Team Championship held in England in parallel with the IAA HF World Championship is now history. Defending champions Yuri V3 DZ and Yaroslav UW7LL reclaimed the gold medal they first won in 2022. Manfred DJ5MW and Uric DM5EE secured the silver, marking Manfred's third consecutive second-place finish. The QSL route for GB26 WRTC and all of the MB call signs used during the competition is via M0OXO. The logs from the 50 competing stations, close on just over 250,000, have been uploaded and are now available via Charles's OQRS. All results can be found on WRTC2026.org. QSO confirmations are also beginning to roll in via LOTW. The host for the 2030 World Radio Sport Team Championship will be announced by the WRTC Sanctioning Committee in a couple of months. August 8 and 9, the EME 2.3 GHz and Up contest. This contest from the ARRL and is for you to work as many amateur stations as possible via the Earth-Moon-Earth path on any authorised amateur frequency above 50 MHz. The contest exchange a station's 4-digit Maidenhead grid square locator. The grid square also serves as the score multiplier. In order for proper scoring of multipliers in the event, it is important that your log include the 4-digit grid square from which your QSO was made from, and the 4-digit grid square of the station you contacted logged. August 15-16 RD contest. August 29-30 Alara contest. September 19-20 VHF UHF field day. October 3 and 4 Oceania SSP contest and Oceania CW contest is October 10-11. Again, the SSP section will run from October 3rd to 4th, followed by the CW section from October 10th to 11th. Now, before we open the DX window to the world, a quick word from Alan VK4SN.
Greetings all, this is Alan VK4 Sierra November, manager for the Trans-Tasman contest. This is a reminder that today, Sunday the 26th at 1400 Zulu, is the cut-off time for the Trans-Tasman contest log submissions. Logs can be submitted via vklogchecker.com. Quickly catching up to us is the Remembrance Day contest on the 15th and 16th of August, so reserve that weekend for Australia's biggest and friendliest contest to remember those who paid the supreme sacrifice. This is Alan, VK4 Sierra November. Good luck and see you on the bands.
Thanks, Alan. Now, a special call sign, DQ30 GDXF, is on the air until the 31st of December, marking the German DX Foundation's 30th anniversary. Contacts made between the 1st of July and the 30th of September with this call sign, or DF0 GDX, and DX Foundation members count towards a special 30th anniversary award. Gunter DK2WH will be on the air from Namibia as V51WH starting August 25th. His activation will continue through to October the 10th. Listen for him on 160 to 6 meters. He will be using the call sign V55Y during the CQWW Ready contest on the 26th and 27th of September. For additional operating details or QSL information, visit qrz.com. Jan DL4XT's active holiday style as 4K/DL4XT from Azerbaijan to 8 August. He is using SSB, CW and FT8 on 20 to 10 meters. QSL via LOTW, Globlogs OQRS and QRZ. Democratic Republic of Congo. The Mediterranean DX Club will be active as 9T0MD between the 30th of September and 11 October. The 9T prefix has never been used before. Operation from 160 to 6 meters using CW, SSB and digital, as well as QO100 and EME. For WIA National News, I'm Felix, VK4FUQ in Ingham.
From here, there and everywhere, you tune to the Wireless Institute of Australia's National News Service. We are VK1WIA. Now, Special Interest Group News with Cole, VK3GTV.
Hello, first up in Worldwide Special Interest Group News this week, it's astronomy and wireless weather.
The FCC has approved the right of startup company Reflect Orbital to use radio frequencies in the S, X and UHF bands to launch and communicate with its low Earth orbit satellite, Arandel-1, which has been scheduled for launch later this year. The satellite's mission is to capture and reflect sunlight into darker regions of the Earth via a giant 60-foot reflector from its orbit 600 to 650 kilometres above the planet. The company intends for this test satellite to be the first of up to 50,000 such orbiting mirrors. Reflect Orbital believes the satellite's beam, which would be 5 kilometres wide on the ground, could be harnessed to power solar farms or illuminate disaster areas where rescue workers toil late into the night. Agency approval was granted despite vocal objections about light pollution from opponents such as the American Astronomical Society. A number of environmental groups have observed how nocturnal species' lives can be disrupted and perhaps imperilled by artificial light during the night. According to various media reports, opposition had been overwhelming among the more than 1,800 public comments the FCC received. Worldwide Special Interest Group's Final Frontier. NASA's New Horizons spacecraft has awakened from its longest hibernation period ever and resumed active operations as it continues its pioneering exploration to the Kuiper Belt beyond Pluto. Flight controllers confirmed on June the 23rd that the spacecraft has safely emerged from a 321-day hibernation that began on August 7, 2025. Now approximately 9.5 billion kilometres from Earth, New Horizons remains healthy and is preparing to return stored science data collected during its dormant period. The spacecraft continues to operate far beyond Pluto as one of humanity's most distant active planetary science missions. The successful wake-up demonstrates the remarkable reliability of autonomous spacecraft operations across the vast distances of the outer solar system. Commands directing the spacecraft to awaken were uploaded nearly a year earlier before New Horizons entered hibernation. Because radio signals now require approximately 8 hours and 52 minutes to travel one way between Earth and the spacecraft, confirmation of the wake-up reached mission controllers through NASA's Deep Space Network station near Madrid, Spain, nearly 9 hours after it was transmitted. Such long communication delays require the spacecraft to perform routine operations independently while awaiting instructions from Earth. Mission teams periodically place New Horizons into hibernation during extended cruise phases to conserve onboard resources and reduce operational demands while continuing valuable scientific observations. Worldwide Special Interest Group News, Internet, the HAM's domain. Ham GPT launches as a personal AI co-pilot built specifically for amateur radio. This new platform combines an operator's license, station, location and live band conditions to answer a practical question. What can I do with my radio today? Ham GPT is now open to the public at hamgpt.co. HamGPT provides full license class aware support for operators, be it here in Australia or the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Japan and Argentina. Unlike a general-purpose chatbot, HamGPT is built around the real operating situation of each ham. It can take into account the operator's license class, country, grid square, radios, antennas, and operating history, then combine that station profile with live propagation, space weather, DX activity, and current on-air conditions. HamGPT includes dedicated step-by-step help for WinLink Express, one of the most useful but sometimes difficult pieces of amateur radio software to configure. It can guide an operator through account creation and registration, VARA-HF and VARA-FM setup, GigiRig, SignalLink and CAT cable connections, COM ports, PTT and audio levels, sending the first message, troubleshooting failed connections. But its main purpose is to answer one deceptively simple question. What can I do with my radio today? Check it out at hamgpt.co. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, IOTA, Islands on the Air. Team 7CHC are active from Gusong Daraja Island, OC 236, until July the 26th. They're operating SSB, CWFT8 and RITI on 80, 40, 20, 15 and 10 metres and will participate in the IOTA contest this weekend. QSL direct to YB8HZ. QSOs will be uploaded to Clublog and QRZ.
Akai JK1JXZ will be active again as T2JK from Funafuti Tuvalu OC015 from the 30th of July to the 7th of August, or possibly the 14th of August. He'll be QRV on 80 through to 6 metres all day during the weekend and after 1700 local Tuvalu time during the weekdays. QSL via LOTW. Steve, number 1, ZL2KE as E51KEE, and Steve, number 2, ZL4CZ as E51CZZ are active again from Rarotonga, OC013, South Cook Islands. From the 22nd of July to the 14th of August, E51KEE will operate CW and some SSB, likely concentrating on 40 and 30 metres. And E51CZZ will operate SSB from July 26 through to August 6. They will not use FT8 or other digital modes. QSL for both call signs via IK2DUW Direct, and QSOs will be uploaded to Clublog and LOTW. SANS VK4WXW has returned to Willis Island OC007 and will be on station at the Australian Bureau of Meteorology's weather monitoring facility until late in October or early November. He expects to become increasingly active as VK9WX in the coming weeks using SSB and FT8 on 40, 20, 15 and 10 metres, QSL via M0OXOs, OQRS. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, Rescue Radio. And first up, it's fellow Bendigonian Graham, VK3GRK.
New Zealand's SafetyNet Critical Communications launched on July 1st and is already delivering on its mandate to modernise the communications capability of New Zealand's emergency services and wider public safety sector. Previously called Next Generation Critical Communications, last November government approved the entity's exit from its host NZ Police. As an independent Crown company, SafetyNet can now offer its emergency-grade communication services in a commercial model to the hundreds of organisations across New Zealand's public safety sector, including central and local government agencies, iwi, not-for-profit organisations, and infrastructure and utilities companies. Steve Ferguson, SafetyNet's CEO, said the new organisation's priority remains delivering the Public Safety Network's 500-site digital land mobile radio network for Foundation customers, Police, Fire and Emergency New Zealand, Wellington Free Ambulance and Hatahone St John. SafetyNet has also begun a carefully managed process of onboarding the first new PSN cellular services customers, including the National Emergency Management Agency, Surf Lifesaving New Zealand, Selwyn District Council and Maritime New Zealand. Michael Clulo, Manager Operations for Maritime New Zealand's Rescue Coordination Centre New Zealand, said having PSN cellular services will boost the communications capability underpinning its vital search and rescue operations. This has been Graham, VK3GRK in Bendigo.
A tropical storm called Helene created a massive communications blackout in western North Carolina, killing internet and cell service for most of the 400,000 plus people who live in the greater Asheville area. Even 911 was down. But Thomas Witherspoon and his ham radio saved the day by providing a critical connection to the outside world. After a post-storm meeting with his neighbours, Thomas called on the Mount Mitchell repeater and requested the supplies the neighbourhood needed from the local fire department. The next day they received a delivery of chainsaw chains, coffee and other essentials. Remember, when all else fails. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, video. We have many listeners of our weekly WIA news broadcast, but did you know that you can also watch it? Yes, it's radio with pictures. Each week, Bevan, VK5BD, compiles the video version of WIA National News and uploads it to his YouTube channel. It's also available via ATV stations. There's a link to Bevan's YouTube channel in the news section at wia.org.au, or you can just search YouTube for VK5BD. And please, when you watch, remember to click like and subscribe, as this helps recognise the huge effort that Bevan puts in each and every week. And that's the segment for this week. Till next time, stay safe and warm. I'm Col
VK3GTV.
It's at 8, and remember, clubs are welcome to email text with audio for this section, nationalnews@wia.org.au. Although we do only broadcast items once in WIA National News, you can submit different slants on your items and we'll broadcast them. VK4, Sunshine Coast Sunfest. It happens on September 19, 25 Peachester Road, Biawa. The WIA affiliated club's president's webinar happens September 20. Bendigo Amateur Radio and Electronics Club Radio Fest, Sunday, October 11, Bendigo East Mall, that's in Lancel Street. And the VKFF National Get-Together, October 30 through to Sunday, the 1st of November. That's in Albury, VK2. I'm Graham, VK4 Baker. See you next week and walk softly.
From Australia, this has been the Wireless Institute of Australia with the weekly news service. This broadcast is in text, audio and video and is accessed on wia.org.au.
Courtesy of Bevan, VK5 BD's ATV and YouTube channel, this has been WIA National News. We're back now, live and local, and your voice, your callbacks. And don't forget, tick like.